Hey guys, Mike with Motivate Fabrication. My previous video intro to my shop got quite a few views, and I've been recording some videos for my Hindi lathe disassembly project that I'll upload soon. But the other interesting part about my shop is and my house is how I heat it. So I thought I'd give you a brief explanation or overview how I heat my shop basically for free. So previously I had a big wood pile and I heated it with a wood boiler, but this holds used oil. The oil gets filtered and comes from a local automotive business, and I installed this tank this past summer. And previously I had 3 275-gallon totes, but so it sits in this tank, and then I drain off any water or any sludgy oil after it sits a month or so before winter time. And I bring any of that oil, I collect it and bring it to a local hazmat place to get rid of it properly. But there's a suction line and a return line that goes into this building. And in the building, I originally built this for the wood boiler. There's the wood boiler. But I had kids, and this time got real hard to keep up with the amount of time required to split and stack wood. That's a gasification boiler. So started thinking of other ways, and I experimented with it's a waste oil burner. It's actually a household burner for heating oil that's been converted with some heating elements and different nozzles and such. You can find information how to do it online, but essentially it pulls oil from the outside tank through this filter on the wall. This little pump on here is what pulls it out, and I return it back into the excess that's not burned back into this tank. It's kind of like a day tank. It keeps the oil a little warmer. And once it's full, it will return. It can't go anywhere else but go back outside. So this is kind of the intermediate tank. I will shut off the valves after I pull enough oil in here and just pull off of here. But it goes, it's kind of confusing to explain, but on the return side, there's this little Y, and it's easier for it to go back downhill into this little heated tank down here. And there's a float assembly in there. I'll show you. There's a little electric heater on this box, but there's a float arm in there, and that keeps the level. So that's how originally, and this thing's actually, I heard it's just about ready to kick on here, so it's perfect timing. But that tank is what feeds the burner, and it keeps it about 75 degrees in there, so it doesn't run a whole lot. It stays pretty warm in this building, but when you're pulling cold oil from the tank outside, it's got to warm it up a little bit. But as you can see, it kicked on this top number. It's warming the preheater inside this burner. So the oil viscosity is a lot lower than what it would be, at 75 degrees. It actually warms the preheater up to 200 degrees. And once it reaches temperature, this will kick on. But to go on this burner or boiler, the burner is attached to a boiler that they do use on the East Coast. It's a Badaris, a German brand. And it's a 3-pass boiler, so the gases go across 3 different sets of heat collecting areas. And it warms the water that's inside, and the water is pumped by this little pump, and it goes underground to a large tank in my house. And I'll stop for a minute here because this is there it goes. So the burner's running. So right now it's heating the water inside the boiler, and that pump is pushing the hot water into a tank inside my basement. The tank in my basement is a 500-gallon pressurized tank. And that's where the water inside my house is stored, and the heating system in there pulls the hot water and runs it through some convective heaters inside the house. As far as my shop goes, a few years after I installed this, I ran another line underground, which is this one here. It's teed in, and it goes directly into a furnace system I have inside the shop, which I'll show you here in a minute. So this is the part inside the shop. It's basically just an air handler with a hot water coil in it. So those lines you saw outside come up through the foundation of floor here and go into this. Essentially it's a radiator. There's some fins in there. The water goes into the tubes and the air blows across, picks up the heat, and it's discharged through the ductwork. And this, I also have air conditioning in here. There's an A coil in the lower part of this place. And here in the Midwest, it does get pretty humid. I don't use it a whole lot. There's about a 2-month period of time where it gets kind of unbearable with the humidity that I run. But the hot water heat in here is pretty handy. It's pretty quick. I know many of you may ask, well, why didn't you put it in floor? The main reason for that is I don't come out here very often for long periods of time. Usually I come out, for an hour or two here and there. And unless you keep this a consistent temperature, the floor heat is really slow to respond. So if, for example, I wanted to work out here on a Saturday, and it was cold in here, I'd probably have to turn the floor heat on Wednesday to get it up to the proper temperature. And I really just don't want to do that. I want to be able to come in here, bring the temperature up really quickly. I keep it set at 40 degrees. And when I come in, I bring it up to 60. That's the temperature I like to work in the winter. And it can do that within probably about 30 to 40 minutes, depending how cold it is. And then when I leave, I turn it back down to 40. So that's how I heat my house and my shop. And I do it very responsibly. I know many of you think oil heat is nasty. It can be, but with the boiler and burner setup I have, there's like a secondary combustion. It's a stainless tube that glows red inside, and it burns basically everything residual off that the burner didn't burn. And the burner burns very clean. You can't see any smoke or anything out of it when it's fully warmed up. When it first starts cold, there's a little bit of blue, but very minimally. Overall, it's very clean, and I do have to clean about once a week to keep the boiler inside clean so it doesn't plug up. But it's a lot more clean than a lot of people think if it's done properly. If the burners and boiler or whatever heating system you're using is not maintained, yes, they will smoke blue and black and a bunch of nasty stuff, but I stay on top of it. I don't believe in excessively polluting, but I do like to save money, so it works for me, and that's how I heat my 2 buildings. Talk to you later. Thanks.